Welcome back to Jections. I'm here with Andrew, Irfan, and Miko. We are back after a 1 week layoff. 75% of this podcast were in Milano to watch the Inter-Frosinone match, and I'm keen to hear how the experience was. So, firstly, how are you guys?
Doing great, yeah. It's kind of weird having met, Miko and Irfan in person, now being back doing this podcast virtually. I don't know. How are you guys doing?
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, doing well. It's great. It's great to have met you and Miko, and my first trip ever to Milan, 17 years in the making, and it did not disappoint. So it was an unbelievable experience. Happy to be back recording, interested to talk about it and to talk about Juve.
Yeah, it was great for me as well. It was great to see you guys and be at the Meazza, see the match alive again. I was there 6 months ago as well, and this was my second time now. It was great to be there.
So I'm going to get to the match and ask you guys questions about the match, but the first thing I want to ask you, Northern Hemisphere elitists, is how was Zanetti's restaurant? I'm really curious to know what the menu was like, how the food was, and was Zanetti there?
Cambiasso was in the kitchen. No, I'm just kidding. It's interesting. It was good. It was a lot of fun. The restaurant is cool. As soon as you walk in, there's all these boots of like famous footballers on the wall. I mean, just for, Zanetti's, of course, are there. And there's a wide range of former and current players. There were some, Leao's kits or boots were there, Lukaku's, I think Adriano. Like there was just a good mix of former and current players from all clubs. I think just anyone who's maybe been to the restaurants. The food was great. It's funny because, I think Americans, sorry, Miko, to loop you in here, but Americans tend to eat a little sooner than most people. So we got there at 7 o'clock and the restaurant was basically empty except for our table. And then by the time we got our food at 8:30, the restaurant was completely packed. Don't know if there was an open seat in the place. So it's a popular place. The food was great. And while we ate, we got to watch Juve play Cagliari on TV. The TV was right above our table. So I guess that was a somewhat nice bonus.
Yeah, I thought overall the ambiance was what kind of stood out to me. It was really really nicely laid out. It was great to see all of the kind of boots and all the other stuff that they had there to kind of commemorate Inter and some of the other teams. And so it was just like a really nice themed restaurant. Food was really good selection of food and good selection of options to eat. So overall, yeah, I think it was a great experience, and that's kind of where we all first met, which was also really cool. So I definitely think I'll remember that experience.
Yeah, it was a nice place. I was there 6 months ago as well, but I didn't have a table reservation, so I was eating outside and alone, so it was a bit better this time.
Okay. Let's not talk about Miko's solo meal. Let's move on to the match. Obviously, the highlight of the match was DiMarco's allegedly accidental screamer from 56 meters. Honestly, I don't really care one way or the other, but do you guys think it was accidental or on purpose?
Yeah, that was 100% a shot for me. Watching it live, as soon as he made contact with the ball, I was looking for it to be a cross because you just don't expect a player to try to shoot from that position. So my eyes initially went to the middle of the pitch where Thuram was, and then you kind of see the ball out of your corner of your eye, and you realize, oh my God, it's like heading towards nets. There's no doubt in my mind that was an intentional shot. I know DiMarco has come out and said it was a shot. Mkhitaryan said it was a cross, but I'm not sure if Mkhitaryan was just doing some good-natured teasing or he actually believes that. But to your point, Jay, I really don't care. It was, regardless, as good of a finish as you'll ever see, like an immediate goal of the season, goal of the year contender. the goal that reminded me of was Florenzi's against Barcelona in the Champions League a few years back, from kind of the same area of the pitch, going on a different net. And, just once again, immediate goal of the year contender, where the technique is incredible. He put in the topmost corner. There's really nothing the keeper could do. He was a dead man walking. He got caught out. Great goal.
Yeah, I think it was intentional. And the first argument for that is that DiMarco saying it was intentional. I'll give him the credit for that. I don't believe he wants to lie about that kind of thing. So for me, it's definitely intentional.
Yeah, I agree too. I think it was intentional. Like Andrew described, like in the actual stadium, it was almost like, your mind was like anticipating and processing it as a cross. But then lo and behold, as the ball was in the air, it honestly felt like 2 minutes that the ball was in the air. You could see it start to just like not curve the way you thought or you were expecting it to curve, and then you see the goalie rushing back. It was just such a great sight to kind of see. So I agree. I think it was intentional, and the fact that DiMarco said it is kind of dispositive for me. What was really cool though, and Miko and Andrew can confirm, like there was times in that match, like for the first 30, 35 minutes, where I would turn to Miko and I would say, hey, like the goalie's so far up. He's so far up the pitch. Like he's nowhere near his box. Like whenever Frosinone would have the ball, he would almost be like halfway between the box and the halfway line. And so I kind of thought that like that was probably in play. Like I remember noticing it 2 or 3 times. And I thought I was noticing it because when you watch it on TV, you just don't see that part of the pitch really. But I think he was just throughout the night, at least before the goal, I think he was just further up. And maybe the team saw that, and maybe DiMarco saw that too.
Just doing his best Onana impression. But okay. One thing I was very keen to ask you guys was, which player stood out to you the most when watching it live at the stadium, and for what reason? I'll go first, and I'm going to say it was actually Darmian. Obviously, I didn't see at the stadium, but Darmian stood out to me a lot that match. I thought he was imperious, or magisterial, as Ray Hudson would say. His tackles were just so fucking good. He was just so on point with his tackles. He'd stick his foot in there with surgical precision and win the ball. I thought he was truly, truly impressive. Admittedly, in the second half, there was less for him to do. But in the first half, he made some key tackles, and I was just, I can't remember the last time I saw such clutch tackling from a player.
I thought the entire back line had a strong game, especially because like Frosinone played well, I thought, or at least as well as you can expect them to play. Like there were genuine,
they did.
The first 35 minutes of the game maybe where we thought like, hey, they're causing us some trouble. So the defense had a good game in general, but 2 center backs stood out to me. The first being Acerbi, who he was all over the place in that game. We were joking with each other because I swear to God, he hit the ground 5 or 6 times at least during that game from like opponents' fouls. Like he was intervening in all the right places. Like I just thought he had a fantastic game. Is the main reason we kept the clean sheets in the back. And then I know he's not an Inter player, but I was really impressed with like the Frosinone center back Okali. Is it? I thought he looked really good throughout the match, and he, obviously it's a tough situation when you're a bottom half of the table team coming in and playing 2 of the best strikers in the world, but I thought he held his own and did a pretty good job of limiting us for most of the match. So a couple defenders stuck out to me.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. I think the defense was overall very impressive. Acerbi, we joked a lot about how Acerbi just has those like old school Italian defense instincts where he knows how to get that tactical foul. He knows like position wise where to be. He makes that clutch tackle. I thought Darmian also looked really, really good. He just looks so smooth. Like he's just like such a well-oiled machine in our system that he just seems so comfortable, and you can see it on the pitch. I thought that Thuram looked incredible. Like watching him in the stadium, you get a sense of just how big and strong he is, and how fast he is, and how much he keeps the defense really like stretched and really pressured throughout the match. And even though it wasn't his like probably best match, like you could just tell he keeps the defense on its toes in such a way that like we don't have that. Like, Martinez, I think Lautaro is like very tactical, like he's very position based, and he's good at like being in the right place and things like that. But Thuram, just from a sheer kind of power, speed, and strength perspective, I think really keeps the defense on its toes and gives a lot of opportunities for other players to kind of join into the attack and get the defense off center a little bit. So I was really impressed watching Thuram live as well.
Yeah, honestly, I don't have any other names to add, because I was about to say exactly Thuram and Darmian and Acerbi. But yeah, it was indeed funny to follow Acerbi drawing those fouls. He was like a vintage D'Ambrosio performance, getting all those fouls every time almost every time when he's going to some challenge. He always get the foul if he didn't get the ball.
Is he like?
Yeah, I will say
like
one thing that was interesting. One thing that was interesting, Jay, was I took my friend who's not really a huge Inter fan. He was with us, and so hearing his perspective was really interesting during the match, because he was kind of looking at everything fresh without like the bias that we might have of certain players. And things that stood out to him, he was really impressed by Thuram as well, and he thought our defense was like really just like strong and like rough and like really like good at like stopping attacks. And he said something really good about Barella. Like he saw Barella, and he was like, this guy's like, he's so good, he's everywhere. And you're like, and then he said, he's always just like right there. He's just like right, being so close to just being epic, but then something happens. And so his takeaway was that Barella was everywhere and he was doing everything, but then there's always just like one little thing, whether it was like a misplaced pass or whether he would get the ball taken away from him right at the end, or something would happen that would prevent him from like having his like epic moment. And that kind of, to me, did a good job of kind of encapsulating what Barella might, seems to be this year.
Should we be concerned that against Frosinone at home, we didn't really create too much, and our goals came from a 56-meter potential, cross/shot and a penalty. And other than that, I felt like we didn't really create too much. Should we be at all concerned?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to be concerned, especially, and I know this is a different conversation, but with these injuries mounting in the team, I think there are reasons to be concerned. I'm not going to be too harsh, because you can't expect to romp every team, 3-0, 4-0 over the course of a season. We had just played an emotional, hard-fought Champions League away match, I believe, right before this. So, I'm not too critical of it. The one thing that just frustrates me, or has been frustrating me lately, is the wingback play. And I think Dumfries, in particular, is kind of in a poor run of form. And back to the injury point, I don't know really what we can do here, because Pavard's out. Darmian needs to play right center back because De Vrij isn't a good fit at right center back. Cuadrado is out hurt, so you don't really have a natural substitute for him. So when Dumfries has these poor games, or when he gets tired, there's really not a good alternative for us. And that's the part of the team I'm most worried about. And I do think that's part of the reason why Barella is maybe not having the best run of form right now. I mean, he was bad before the injury crisis, but Dumfries, not being able to supply Barella is definitely a detriment to the team. So I guess that's my area of concern after the Frosinone match. And then, of course, I'm sure you all saw Arnautovic inexplicably was playing for Austria in a meaningless game and got hurt. So now we're back to only having 3 strikers, which is disappointing because Arnautovic played against Frosinone. It was his first game back for us in, 2 months basically. So I don't know. There are a lot of causes for concern in the squad right now, I think, that make me a little nervous, as we progress in the season. But we did get to see Stefano Sensi live, so that was a great added bonus.
Yeah, that was a cool one. But yeah, to me the first half wasn't like totally bad. I don't think we got too many shots and goal, but I think we generated quite a lot of stuff on their box, but we just couldn't get the final ball. That wasn't right ever. It was always the last cross or pass was a bit missing. But I think we generated quite a lot of chaos in their box. But I don't know, maybe my memory is just failing me. But I felt that we were like in our typical match in Meazza against a smaller team where we just take over the match, but this time we couldn't just score apart from then the DiMarco long shot. What did you Irfan?
Yeah.
At least watching, obviously not at the stadium, but live, it felt like we turned the pressure up slowly, and then kind of out of nowhere, these 2 goals were scored by DiMarco and Calhanoglu respectively. And even though I think they happened on either side of the halfway or the halftime break, if I'm not mistaken, but they took place in within a relatively short time frame. I think they were like the 42nd and 50th minute or something like that. So we turned up the pressure slowly. These 2 goals came fairly spontaneously, and then it felt like after that point we just said, we can just maintain this now. And so I will say that I was glad to see the team actually do that for a change and manage the game without any significant fear of throwing the result away like we did against Bologna or Sassuolo. So that was an encouraging step in the right direction for me.
Yeah, I think that all makes sense. What I found interesting was that you're right that we scored kind of right before the half, and then we scored the penalty after the half. But I remember telling Miko and telling Andrew while we were watching in the first half that I feel it's coming. I feel like the goal is coming. We're getting close. What Miko said, I think, is true. We played pretty well. I think we were able to generate quite a lot, but it would always kind of just die right at the end. Either it was a bad pass, or something failed, or something got intercepted, or something got deflected, or something would always happen that would prevent us from getting a solid shot on goal. The other thing I remember very distinctly saying, and I think a lot of us were saying that, which is why won't we just shoot? We would always try to make that extra pass sometimes, where even in places where it wasn't there. We're not Barcelona or the Wenger style Arsenal team that needs to open up and pass so much that then someone just kind of walks into the goal kicking the ball. So I felt like we were a little too passive with our shooting in that first half, which ironically enough is hilarious because then somebody who probably should have never shot from there ended up shooting and scoring our first goal. So that was very interesting. But being in the stadium, I remember that you could kind of feel like it was palpable, like it was coming, like we were getting close. We felt in control. And I do think you have to give Frosinone some credit. They were extremely organized. They came out and played really well. They did a really good job of kind of singling out Lautaro and trying to kind of neutralize him. Their defense, I think Andrew even mentioned one of them, their defenders did a really good job against our team. and you could tell they were like excited to play and they were with it. And the other thing that we kept commenting on was like, this does not look like a team that's about to get relegated. As you were saying last week, Jay, we're like, this Frosinone team is actually a pretty decent team. At least they put in a pretty good showing.
Give him time. But I agree that Okoli was impressive. I thought he did a really good job of marshalling Lautaro and Thuram. And incidentally, was it that one time he kind of slipped near the halfway line that resulted in Thuram's penalty? But other than that, I thought he was really good as well. So, yeah, I agreed that Frosinone certainly contributed to what was a tight game.
The one thing so Mikko had to fly home pretty early on the Monday after the fixture, but Irfan and I stuck around an extra day. And the one cool thing we did was, which I've never done before, was take a San Siro stadium tour. So I think in the afternoon on Monday, we met up and we met outside one of the gates, and we had a tour guide who went, and she showed us, we got to walk through the Inter locker room and the Milan locker room and see where the player sits. We got to walk from the tunnel they emerge out of onto the pitch. And while we weren't allowed on the actual pitch itself, we were allowed in the players' bench area. A fun fact I learned, which I didn't know, was that the bench area is completely artificial, like turf, but the pitch itself is 80% real grass and 20% artificial. It's like a blend. And then I think we also got to look at the like Inter kind of Hall of Fame of sorts with all the famous player kits. So Irfan, just wanted to get your thoughts on that experience and what kind of your takeaways were from seeing the inner workings of San Siro.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was worth every penny we spent, and it was really nice to see. And I think we were very lucky that we did the tour right after an Inter match, because the tour guide kept saying that right now, because Inter just played, everything is kind of set up with Inter. Like, so, you could see the Inter logo everywhere. You could see the black and blue pretty much everywhere in all of like the more neutral areas. And so when Milan's playing, those would have been replaced with kind of red and black. But so it was really nice to see Inter branded everywhere. The stadium, the inner workings of the stadium were really cool. The museums were awesome. They had a lot of really cool things there. Being in the locker room was incredible. It was just surreal. Walking through that hallway that these players walk through out of the locker room was awesome. To me, I'll never forget like walking through the tunnel where all these players line up and then they walk out into the center of the pitch, and doing that same walk and capturing that was just incredible. And just being in the stadium, even when we were there for the match, I was just completely blown away. And one thing I'll say that was really impressive was I and everyone I talked to here in the US, I kind of explained it to them. I was like, the amount of energy in that stadium and the way, that all the people there are so passionate and sitting there and watching the match, and there's just a mix of everyone. There's women, there's men, there's older people, there's kids, even for like such a late kickoff. It was incredible. And that 1/4 of the entire stadium, basically the Curva Nord side, was just on its feet and yelling and chanting the entire time. It's just, you don't see that anywhere here in the US. It was just incredible. And I think I'll always remember that. It was like surreal being in the stadium to witness that. And it's a real testament to like our club and the passion that our supporters have. It was amazing. Like, even now when I close my eyes, I'll hear them doing one of the songs and the chants and the entire stadium just kind of echoing with it. It was unbelievable.
All right, let's transition to talking about the Juve match coming up next week on Sunday. The biggest match of the season so far is coming up here. And I don't know about you guys, but when I got ready for this match, or like when I started thinking about this, I think we have a very Milan biased podcast where we spend a lot of time and energy focusing on Milan. And maybe you don't realize how close to us in the table Juve are. But really, I'm not sure what happened there. I was just talking, and then Jay jumped in and said, sorry about that. So I didn't hear anything else. Did you guys hear that as well?
I said that when you said we have a Milan focus, but you must have heard it like 5 seconds after I said it.
Yeah, so that was something like that.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just gonna not.
I don't
I'm
know
just
what's
gonna
going on with your
talk.
leg.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on either. I'm just gonna not talk unless you guys specifically ask me a question. Okay, I'm just gonna stop interjecting. All right, please resume.
All right.
Please resume.
Just to I think Juve have kind of snuck up on us. They're only 2 points behind us in the table. They have one fewer win, one more draw than us, same amount of losses. And I don't know if it's because stylistically they play such a wretched brand of football that maybe there's been some bias setting in, but they've won 5 in a row in the league. They haven't dropped points since a draw against Atalanta back in October. They're playing productive point producing football, and it's very classic Allegri. So want to go around and get your all thoughts on this match, because if Juve win, they go top table. If we win, we're gonna have a nice cushion. I should probably add that this is an away fixture, and our track record going to Torino and playing matches against Juve is just repulsive. So maybe that's a reason for lack of optimism. So, Jay, curious your thoughts ahead of the biggest match of the season.
Yeah, naturally a bit apprehensive, or very apprehensive rather. I think the injury situation is a little bit concerning as well. Obviously, Pavard is out, Bastoni is out, so that's already 66% of our starting defense is gone. So we're going to have to come up with some makeshift solution. It looks like the lesser of two evils is actually going to be Acerbi at left centre-back rather than De Vrij at right centre-back. But realistically, neither of them should ever happen. So yeah, the defence is a little bit concerning, and we're yet to confirm if Çalhanoğlu will miss any game time. He had to withdraw from international duty with Turkey because of what they called a upper respiratory infection. I don't know if that's just like a fancy word for the flu or COVID, but in any instance, there was that. But then there was also the case that his wife was about to give birth, so maybe it was just like they made an excuse for him to go home and be with his family. But we don't know in any instance. But if Çalhanoğlu happens to be out, then that'll be very problematic as well. But yeah, just more to the point, I am yet to see any real proof that we've kind of got over this mental handicap that we have against Juventus. They are extremely successful at dragging us down to their level. And I was just talking about this before, but excuse me. I was just talking about this before, but I think stylistically, or rather, I think from a pure football sense, that we're just simply a much better team than them. I think we have better players, individually speaking as well. I think we have a far more modern coach who plays far better football. But like I said, they just have a way of dragging us and other teams down to their terrorist level where it's just impossible to watch an entertaining game. Controversial, yes, but entertaining in like the, in the classic sense of the word, not really, I fear this will just end up another classic Juve Inter game where firstly, it's going to be low scoring. Secondly, the big talking points after the match will be, Rafinha, Pjanic kind of thing, Lichtensteiner being on a yellow card and then committing 5, yellow card offenses after that, but not getting subbed off. You know what I mean? Those kinds of things, or Quadrado sticking his leg, like studding Perisic in the calf and somehow winning a penalty, that kind of shit. We've just seen, literally decades of that kind of stuff. So like, it's hard to kind of break from that mentally and, expect like a great game, but I still hope for it because I think, this is the first time since Mourinho that we've been I mean, we haven't had the same success as Mourinho's Inter on a domestic level, obviously. Inzaghi has been here for 3 seasons and has not won the league title. So compared to Mourinho winning it twice in 2 seasons, obviously. But on the continental level, and that comes with a certain pedigree, a certain prestige. I think, although, you know, what it takes to win domestically and what it takes to win or at least do well in the Champions League are 2 different things. I think they kind of help each other, especially when you apply like a certain European pedigree to the domestic campaign, right? So this is the first time since Mourinho that we feel like a genuinely respectable and feared opponent in Europe. Obviously, the deep run and finishing runners-up in last season's campaign contributed immensely to that. And, you know, I think a lot of fans, neutral fans, non-Inter fans would give us a lot of respect for the way we played against Man City. And I think a lot of them share my opinion that based on chances created, we're not for one, you know, were not for one disgrace who will not be named, we could have, arguably should have won that game against the most powerful on the pitch and, you know, financially powerful club in the world, right? And so, yeah, I like to think that these kinds of things contribute to us being a more, just a better team in terms of we have the confidence and the prestige and the playing style that comes with being successful in Europe over the last 18 months or so, or 2 seasons under Inzaghi. But I don't know if that is enough to overcome the dog shit mire that Juventus will subject us to. You know, if there was an injustice in this world, we'd play our, as the Milan fans used to say, Euro football, continental football, and dismantle them. But yeah, I'm not yet convinced that we've risen to that high of a level to dismantle Juve in that fashion.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. That even if we were great at Europe last season, but we still lost both Serie A matches.
Yeah, we lost both of them.
Yeah, so it was like pretty bad in the league against Juve, and I think this is definitely the time to like change that, and now's the time like change the order between these 2 teams. That we are really the best team in Italy and not Juve, even if Juve haven't been like great in recent years, but the mental, there's something mental in this matchup, and especially these away games have been really tough for us. I had to check, like, well, starting from when Conte came to Inter, just like a random time period. But anyway, we have won like 1 match away against Juve, and that was in Inzaghi's first season when we won with the Çalhanoğlu penalty.
And we looked horrible in that game.
Yeah, I remember that we probably didn't deserve to win that match. But yeah, we should definitely, like, this time we should like stomp them. But obviously it won't be easy in this away match. I won't expect any stomping, even if it could be like great to like destroy this Allegri terrorist football, as everyone calls it.
But yeah. I will say, if you'll allow me to interject, I will say one thing. I think that Juventus, like you mentioned, Mikko, has this like definite mental edge over us. It seems like regardless of like what kind of form we're in or how well we're playing and how bad of form they're in or how bad they're playing, it seems like they will come out and grind out a result against us, and that'll kickstart their campaign. Usually they'll go on a really good form, a good run of form right after like they handle us. But I do think that the team probably has a little bit of a chip on their shoulders, and they're going to be ready. And in some ways, maybe the injuries might even turn out to be a little bit of a blessing because they'll definitely be super hyper focused and ready and willing to take on the challenge. And I feel like there's a little bit of more confidence in our players this year, especially someone like Lautaro, playing with just so much confidence that where they might have shied away or being caught in the moment previously, they hopefully won't be this time. So I know it's a little optimistic, but I think we're well suited and we're well positioned. And the fact that they're only 2 points back, I think, is probably not lost on the team. And I think you'll see about as intense and good of a performance as you possibly can see. But if they come out early on and they show those signs of mental weakness and giving Juve way too much credit, then we know we'll be in for a long match. But it's gonna be tough. Juve are tough, and I know we've talked a lot about Milan almost jokingly in the last couple of weeks and maybe most of the podcast this season. But if you remember when we were talking about predictions for the season, I think most of us did identify Juventus as probably the biggest threat to us and the most likely Scudetto winners until I said we signed Pavard, in which case we would be the leader. So, I think we take Juve pretty seriously, and it'll be interesting to see. I'm excited for the match. All the Derby d'Italias are amazing, and so it'll be cagey and rough, and it'll be kind of just fun to see it again after being forced another international break for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, one concern I have is that if we remember the Inter-Roma match, and Roma was defending pretty well, they contained Inter pretty okay until Aslani Di Marco Thuram managed to score the goal. It was quite late in the game, if I remember. I fear that the same happens with Juve, but as they have a better forwards, maybe better players in the midfield, it could be a bit more dangerous match for us. But I assume Allegri will start the same way as Mourinho, that they will sit very deep and they won't risk anything in the back. So we just need to, I don't know, we need to be like, we shouldn't rush anything. We should be very, very patient, as we usually are, but especially in this match.
Yeah. And I think it'll help that the fact that we're going to be away, I think we'll start off a little more calculated as well. One thing that I am concerned about, Andrew mentioned that, I think Miko, you talked about it, Jay talked about it. The injuries are definitely a concern. The back line, I think, yes, a concern, but what I'm really, really concerned about, what kind of keeps me awake at night, is the fact that Aslani was injured in that last match against Frosinone, and if we don't have Aslani, then I'm really concerned. So, Jay, I'm curious to get your thoughts going into this match. Who do you think will either be a pivotal player for us that might be decisive, or who do you think, we're probably going to miss the most through injury? What do you think, Jay?
Yeah, I was going to comment that, the whole trip to Milan was a colossal waste of time for you because Aslani was injured. But look, as long as we have one of Calhanoglu or Aslani, I'm not too worried about that Regista position. As I mentioned in my initial response, the defense does concern me. If Darmian plays, then not so much. But Andrew was talking about this a few weeks ago, how we lose a lot of offensive output and creativity and just general fluidity and link-up play when we don't have Bastoni in that left centre-back position. So that's I think a bit of a concern for me, but I'm not that worried about the rest of the team because actually, you know what? Let me say, I want to see a big performance from Barella. That 2-0 win we had under Conte, Barella was a monster. He was like a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 type performance. Obviously scored the second goal. But it's been a long time since we've seen a truly great performance from Barella, in my opinion. We've kind of been scraping the bottom of the barrel this season to come up with reasons to give him praise. And I want to see a big match from him. I want to see a big match from Lautaro and Thuram. I think Mkhitaryan just brings it all the time anyway. He's so important to the way we play, and his skill set just matches so perfectly with what we need that he's always kind of in a position to perform, right? Someone like Barella, a little bit less so, I think, just given the players around him, given his own kind of drop in form. Like, I think, like on that note, I think Barella is actually, like Conte Barella is much better than what I've seen from Barella under Inzaghi, and it's been 3 years. But anyway, Dumfries as well. I mean, I'm looking for a response from the whole team. I can't really single out one person and say, I want this or that. But I guess if I had to, then Barella. But I just want to see the whole team kind of play at a level which does exactly what Miko said and kind of stamp some authority onto this fixture, onto this opponent, and says, your time is up, fuck off. We are now the dominant side in Italy, as evidenced by the way we play in Europe and the respect we've garnered in Europe over the last year or two. And we need to back that up with a big performance here and then continue that on to winning the league this season. Like, I can't stress this enough. We really, really, really have to win the league this season.
The only part of this Juve team I really respect is the attack. Vlahovic, Chiesa, I guess to a lesser extent Keane, but these are players who can actually give us trouble in a game. And with us already missing 2 starting defenders, I think if Juve tries to take any sort of initiative in this match, they're going to have goal scoring opportunities. But on the flip side of this, I just can't fathom a scenario where, and Juve have been playing this gritty 3-5-2 that has just suffocated opponents. They do not allow teams to score. I can't emphasize this enough. They're playing strong defensively, but if a back 3 of Bremer, Rugani, and Gatti or whoever else they run out there is able to keep a clean sheet against us, I'll be concerned, because this is the type of matchup where we all think Lautaro has taken that next step this year, and he's finishing at a higher clip than ever before. He's maybe showing us some ability we didn't know he had in terms of ball placement and link-up ability. He needs to prove his worth here and get a goal or two, or help create a goal or two against Juve, because this Juve backline, I do not respect them as individual players. And I understand they're playing well as a unit, but we have the competitive advantage in terms of higher quality players, our attackers against their defense. And I hope we're able to make that be shown over the course of a game.
I wanna comment shortly on Barella. I don't think he's been bad this season, and I'm not concerned about his performances. But it was a good shout by Jay regarding regarding Barella's performance against Juve. I remember, especially last season, I think he was almost like a piss poor against Juve when it was the home match and it was highly anticipated match, and he was really terrible there and let everyone down. And I really expect also him to have a strong match this time, because he really needs to put like everything on the table now.
Yeah, I did look up one thing really quick. I agree with you on Barella. I think he's due for like a vintage kind of performance of just kind of dominating, and I'm sure he'll be excited and motivated to do that against Juventus. So I think we'll see that, and hopefully it'll be something that we all want. I was looking at Lautaro's record against Juventus. His individual record is not great. I think in 16 in all matches, in 16 matches, which includes cup ties, I think he scored 3 goals and has 2 assists against them. And so I think of all the teams that we play, I think Juventus is probably among the worst that his individual record is. Uh, but again, as we've discussed, like so far this season, we're seeing a different version of Lautaro. He's truly become like the alpha in our attack. He's much more confident and much less deferential. So hopefully that translates. But I think I think we have to get to the point where we're making some predictions here. So I'm curious what you all think. Jay, what do you think in terms of kicking us off with predictions?
Yeah, I'm going to go with a 1-0 Juventus win. I think we'll play dismally. And I think after the game, instead of talking about how dismal we were, all the Inter fans will be talking about, some penalty call that wasn't given, or some, foul in the build-up that wasn't blown, or, or Pjanic should have been sent off against Rafinha but wasn't, or whatever. It always seems to just be a dipshit experience for everyone involved. And so, yeah, my head says some just part of the course, just the same shit we've seen for 20 years kind of thing. But the optimistic side of me says we're going to rise to the occasion and dismantle these guys. So, you can choose between one or the other, 1-0 or 2-0 to us. So 1-0 to Juve or 2-0 to us.
I just want to preface this by saying, if this is not obvious, even if we lose this game, we're still very much in the Scudetto race. You can afford to lose this game from a point standpoint, but from a psyche standpoint, man, losing 3 in a row in the league to Juve would be a little demoralizing. I'm worried. I guess that's my general state of being with this club, but I'm worried primarily because of the injuries in defense. But like I said, I really do think we're going to be able to score against this team. So I'm going to do something absurd and predict a 4-goal game against Juve. I'm going with a 2-2 draw. I just think both teams are going to struggle to defend against each other. So I honestly would consider this a bit of an optimistic prediction, because if I were to take a fixture list before the season and start racking through games, like 99 times out of 100, I'm calling this away fixture a loss. But we're playing well enough. I have a lot of confidence in our attack, so I'll say 2-2 with a brace by Lautaro. Miko, what do you got for me?
Yeah, I agree. I agree that the loss wouldn't be like a terrible as a result in terms of the championship, but I don't expect that, and I'm gonna go with an away win this time because I want to be optimistic. So I'm gonna go with 2-1 away win for us, and Thuram's gonna score and Çalhanoglu's gonna score a penalty. Yeah,
Man, this is it's a tough one. And I'm surprised, Miko, you're not giving this a budgeted loss or budgeted draw kind of distinction. But I think this is going to be a tough match for us. If we were at full strength, I would feel actually fairly confident. I think I'd be supremely confident if we had our full squad, just because I don't know. I feel like we have a little bit of magic this year, and I think that we can we can translate that into a good result against all teams except for Bologna apparently and Sassuolo. But I think it'll be a good match. It'll be tough. I like Andrew said, I actually do anticipate some goals being scored as well. And like Miko, I'm predicting a 2-1 or a 1-2, I guess, Inter win. And I think it'll be. I really want to say Lautaro, but I'm going to go with Thuram and Barella scoring. And I think one of the reasons I am predicting a win and I'm confident is because the way Thuram played and the way we played against Milan makes me think that these guys are going to come out and they're going to be up for it. And Thuram in some of our biggest kind of matches or where we really needed a goal, he's been extremely clutch as well. So I'm predicting a big match from him, and I think he'll help guide us along with, of course, Lautaro to a win. But I'm going to predict Thuram and Barella to score in a 2-1 or 1-2 win for us.
The one question I do want to ask you all, just as you look at this Juve team, it's complicated to break down. Like it's a strong unit, but I think they lack the individual quality that we have. Like if you start going by position by position, I would take our player at most positions, but they're good units. Which I'm just curious, like if you guys were to pinpoint one danger man on Juve who you're worried about going to this game, or who you think could have a big game against us tactically, do you have an answer for me? Or maybe is there anyone other than Vlahovic you would put in that category, Jay?
Chiesa ahead of Vlahovic. Vlahovic doesn't even fucking start right now. He's been benched for Kane. And sometimes even Weah of all people. So, to be honest, I'm not really concerned about Vlahovic just because, yeah, like I said, I think Chiesa is their go-to guy right now. He's picked a great time to rediscover his form as well. Obviously, 2 goals for Italy
He did pick up a knock midweek, though, on international duty against North Macedonia.
I hope the knock is terminal, but look, Chiesa is obviously their main guy. He's playing really well, and I mean, like injury notwithstanding, he'll be there. Obviously, super keen as he always is. If there's one thing that's annoying about Chiesa, it's that he's just super keen. You know what I mean? He's a real gamer. He just goes and goes and goes. And you got to respect that in some way. So, yeah, Chiesa's the guy that I expect to cause us trouble. And Kostic seems to have had a few good games against us since he joined Juve. So, Juve always have these pricks who just always do well against us. In previous generations, it was Vidal and Dybala, and even Morata scored against us a lot way back in like the 2014-15 kind of era. Hopefully Kostic is not turning into, like that guy who always has a good game against Inter. Oh, and I forgot Quadrado as well. But yeah, let's just hope we can keep him quiet with Dumfries and Damian.
Yeah, I want to mention top of Chiesa, I want to mention Rabiot. I think Rabiot has been pretty good against us usually, and he's been like dominating the midfield when it's supposed to be Barella. So let's hope this time Barella is the better one, because usually Rabiot is there and he's been pretty good in general for Juve. I think he's one of the best players, honestly, been like at least for 2 years, maybe even longer. So that's the guy I'm looking at.
Yeah, that's a good shout. He always plays really well against us. I think he scored against us as well. You guys took the two that I was thinking. I was thinking Rabiot and I was thinking Kostic. I think Kostic has played really well against us and gives us a lot of trouble with his speed on that side. So I'm going to be curious to see what they do with that. Chiesa, I agree. He always plays well. He's a good player. At the end of the day, he's probably one of their best players, at least in terms of like pure skill. So we'll need to be prepared for him. But if we can control Rabiot and we can control Kostic, I think that'll go a long way. And then overall, I think, as a team, we just have to be really organized. We have to be intense. We just have to bring it. And I think if we do that, I think we'll be able to handle Juventus pretty well. If anything, it'll be great that Cuadrado will not be playing against us or be coming on as a sub against us, because he always gives us fits as well. So in one way, it's like we kind of neutralized one of the more annoying. It's like when everyone was saying when Muriel was getting ready to come on the pitch, it's like one of those like boogeyman players that always seems to do well against us, Berardi being another one. So just having Cuadrado out of the equation for Juve might help us a little bit, I think.
Yeah, 40 chess from Maratta. He signs Cuadrado strictly so he'd be unavailable for Juve against us, not because he actually expected any contributions from the player, which there haven't been.
Yeah, other than one really nice assist. Let's not take that one away.
Yes. Back in August, was it? It's
yeah.
Well, I'll remember that moment fondly. All right, I think we can probably wrap it up for this week, unless anyone else has any miscellaneous thoughts they want to get in. We'll be back next week to recap the Derby and to preview a busy week ahead. Man, what a gauntlet of fixtures, guys. We've got Juve, we have an away Champions League match against Benfica, and then right back to our old friend Walter Mazzari and Napoli. So it's going to be a busy week. Next week's episode should be a banger. Hope you guys tune in for it. But yeah, thanks guys. Appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks all.
Yeah.
See ya.
Thank you.
Come on.